Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of What's New Mama podcast. I'm Giselle.
What's up, everyone? It's Amy.
And we are just like in shock and just wanted to take a moment before we even jump into our episode to say thank you to all of you guys that commented, shared, supported, encouraged, and just said, oh my God, this is a great idea. I can't believe like somebody didn't think about this before. It's just so nice to hear like this isn't just a crazy idea in my head anymore that I was like talking to Amy about. I was like, maybe we should do that. I don't know. So thank you to all of you guys for the support and for the encouragement.
Yes,
Right.
we did want to take some time out to say thank you so much for listening to us or watching us, whichever method you preferred. And thank you for sharing with other people, because that was important just to get the word out. And we appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah. You made us not feel so crazy for doing this.
That's true.
But yeah, so today's episode is going to be a mix of things, but we wanted to focus on just basically let's talk baby and birth stories. So let's talk about how that conversation went when we decided, hey, you know what? Let's have a baby. If that conversation even did happen. Or if it was just like, oh, hey, I'm pregnant. And then we'll talk about like our birth stories and a little bit after that. Does that sound good, Amy?
Yeah, that's good. You take it away, because I know you just had Derek, so it's fresher in your mind. Meanwhile, I'm here like
dusting off the cobwebs of the mom brain of the first pregnancy, right?
Yeah, that was almost 6 years ago, so... Yeah, it's going to take me a minute.
While ago. And also, like, the world was different 6 years ago as opposed to this time around.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't want to make it a really long story, but for me, it was a lot of us, like, going back and forth. Like, do we want to just travel for the rest of our lives, or do we want to have a baby? And it's weird when you put it in those two different, like, things, like two different categories, because you could obviously do both, right? You can travel with a kid, but it's just different. You have to worry about school schedules, the season, and all of that other stuff, right? And you just don't have the same type of vacation. A vacation with a kid is just not really a vacation, right?
No, you're just taking care of them in another place.
In another place, right? Exactly. And maybe get a tan. So, you know, we had to really sit down and say, one, is this what we want to do? And two, are we ready for that? Are we ready for that as individuals and as a couple? Because those are two very separate things.
Yeah.
And it was funny because we would go back and forth. So when we were living in California, we were like, well, yeah, I mean, maybe eventually down the line, we'll talk about that later on once we get back to New York, and we'll figure that out, right? And then when we got back to New York, when we were about to drive back and we were coming back, it was 2020. March of 2020, and that was when we all know exactly. Like, who knew we were going to walk into what we walked into for 2020, right? So that made us question things a little bit. It made us feel like, well, maybe this isn't the world that we want to bring a child into just yet. We let alone like raise a kid in a world where there's all these riots happening, all of this like ugliness going on in the world, and there's this virus that people don't know where it came from, the vaccine, like all this other chaos, right? So we were like, you know what, let's just focus on the wedding, if we even are having a wedding, because 2020, you know. And we were just like, let's just focus on us. We took the time to you know, obviously, like, you know, my mom had COVID, so she's in the hospital. So we were taking care of the people around us and ourselves to protect ourselves against this virus. And the last thing on our mind was, hey, let's try and have a baby.
Yeah.
So fast forward to, you know, we're here, obviously. And after our wedding in October, we were like, yeah, maybe we should think about that again. Maybe put it on the table. I know shit is crazy right now, but let's just think about it, because one thing the pandemic showed us is that everything else can be taken away from you, right? Like whether it's a material thing, your job, your career, like everything was just like turned upside down. But what was really there, right? The people that you love, the people that you care about. Unfortunately, if you were one of those people that lost somebody around that time, like those are all things that stood out to us. And it was one of those moments where, you know what, traveling will always be there. And we have each other. Why not just create our own little family that we'll have no matter what, right? Like it's just us in like our little nook. And then we decided like, okay, we'll start trying. But we still were like scared. Like I was really scared.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big change. It's not only like family wise, it's also your body. Your body goes through a lot. So it's like, do I really want to do this? Because I know a lot of people who are like, no, I don't want to put my body through this.
Well, it's also, for me personally, I can't speak to about anybody else's experience. I grew up as a chubby kid. So for me, like, I had to work really hard to get out of that
mindset.
That mindset of, you know, like I was bullied as a kid, like growing up chubby and all that. So I had to get out of that mindset of, oh my God, if I gain that weight, like, will I lose it back? And I know it sounds crazy, but when you grow up with the mentality, especially in Latino culture, it's like the minute you go to a family gathering, it's like, tú estás media gordita, or, you know, or what, you know, everything's about your body. Everything's about like you. And it's so hypercritical and it's so toxic that I was just like, I finally got myself to a point where I was like strong, fit, healthy, and, you know, whether it was prepping for the wedding, but it was just, I had the time because of the pandemic to do that. That I was like, okay, am I mentally prepared to watch my body change and go through this transformation after I worked really, really hard for so many years to be healthy? And like, yes, that's vanity, but a part of it is just me overcoming my childhood trauma of saying, no, I'm better than these things that I grew up hearing, that I wasn't good enough and whatever. So that was really hard for me. But then January came and we were getting ready for like our honeymoon and everything. And we were like, you know what, let's just like, it was just like, we felt so much love for each other that we were just like, let's just try. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Because who knows? It might not take the first time or whatever it might be. But here we are. And as Tom says it, he's like, well, you're Latina, so it's like a given, blah, blah, blah. I was like, no. Listen, I didn't know if it was going to happen. My mom has a history of, you know, miscarriages, stillborn, and obviously that affects me and like my possibilities. I also had a procedure, like a surgery that I had to have done the year before, so that lessened my chance as well of having a baby, which not a lot of people know, but now they will because if they're listening. So that was really scary, and then it came to the point where I was like, okay, I ran out of tampons, and I was tracking my cycle with the Daisy, with the basal temperature. I wasn't on any birth control, but we were like on it for like over a year, like not trying.
Let me just ask you, because this is like the first time I hear about this tracking basal temperature. Like, what is it? Like, just quickly, if you could tell us, because I have no idea.
So a way to track your cycle, right? Obviously, you check your cervical mucus. That sounds disgusting, but you go in there and you check your mucus. So if it's like egg whitey, that means you're ovulating or you're close to ovulation. If it's creamy, you're about to ovulate. If there's nothing there, then you're good. So that's one way. Within the body, the basal body temperature, that's the minute you wake up. You don't talk, you don't like drink anything, you don't move, you take your temperature, and that's your temperature. And so that it's supposed to show, it shows like a trend, right? And it's supposed to detect based on your body temperature when you're ovulating and when you're not. And when it's like, you know, you're extra fertile when you're not. Right.
Is it because your temperature changes, or?
So from what so your temperature does change when you're approaching your period, when you have your period. Do you get hot? Like I usually get hotter. When I get my period, makes sense. Right? All right. So it's a little bit higher. And so the stupid way that I explain it to myself in my head, right? It's your body's hot, right? So it's just like it's running. It's like prepping for menstruation. But
Okay.
when your body's at a cooler temperature, you're more likely to be fertile.
Okay.
And if there's somebody else listening there that can explain a little bit better, or it's like you have it completely wrong, please enlighten me. I knew it when I started doing it. I kind
Okay.
of fell off doing it like recently because I just don't sleep now. But you have to have 4 hours of sleep straight.
Oh, okay.
No interruptions in order for that to work.
Oh, okay.
Right. So right now it's been a little tough for me to have 4
Yeah.
hours straight of sleep.
All right.
There's other types of thermometers that you could use. Like when I was breastfeeding, like there was all these other, I think it's like body temp. I'll find some links and I'll post it up, or I'll send it to you. But those are the ones that you don't have to necessarily have 4 hours straight of sleep for it to detect.
Oh, okay.
And I used that for a year because I got off birth control. Birth control was making me very like moody, like how you were describing, like you're raging, like hormones
Yeah.
when you were pregnant. I would get like that with birth control, or I would get like depressed. And so I'm very sensitive with my hormones, and they affect me like mentally. So I was like, let me get off of this. And then for a year, I was on like the thermometer, just tracking it, and like didn't have any hiccups, any accidents, or any of that stuff. But then when it was time to actually try, I just, on the days that it said you're fertile, those are the days that we
You
actually
would try. Okay.
Yeah. And it took
it worked,
the first time.
clearly.
The first time, yeah. So it was just one of those things like, oh my God, like I didn't think it was going to be this easy.
That
because
quick,
in my
yeah.
head, yeah, like I had everything going against me. And I know it's not always easy, you know,
Yeah.
especially the older you get. Like I'm 34 now, you know, so the older you get,
Ooh,
the
super
chances.
old.
No, but you know, you produce less eggs, and it's just,
Yeah.
it's harder,
Yeah.
you know,
It is.
So, you know, we found out like, okay, like, I didn't even tell you. So, yeah, so I ran out of tampons, and then I was like, all right, I need tampons, or I need a pregnancy test, or I need both, because I don't know which one's going to come. So I ended up getting both. And then I came back home, and 2 days after I was supposed to get my period, I took the test.
Okay.
And I was like, all right, let me see. And then I got a digital, and then I got a regular like line one, just to like be sure. And Tom was sleeping, and it was like 4 a.m. or something like that. And I woke him up, and I was like, hey, I was like, look, I'm pregnant. And then he was like, what? Like half awake.
But
He
what
was
the
like,
hell were you doing up at 4 o'clock in the morning doing a pregnancy test?
I didn't, honestly, like I woke up and I had to pee. So I woke up and I had to pee, and I know like
It's first
you have to
pee.
get that first
Yeah.
pee. And I was like, okay, let me just take it now, and whatever. If it's positive, great, whatever. But it's so weird because I felt it. I felt it. And Tom thinks I'm crazy, but I swear to God, I felt it. Like I can feel when it happened, because I kept getting like these like twinges, tinges,
Like almost like butterflies, maybe? Like a little flutter?
but it
or
was
something?
It was where my ovaries were, like my pelvic area. I felt it on like one side, and then I
Okay.
was like, "That's weird. I've never felt that before." And then I got like a weird cramp, and I was like, "Well, maybe it's my period."
Yeah.
But then when it didn't come for 2 days, I was like, "All right, let me just see what's going on." So yeah, so that was that whole process, and we kind of kept it to ourselves because it was very scary. You know, I just didn't know if it was gonna stick or not. And I remember I was like DMing you and like messaging you,
Yeah.
and we were talking. I was asking you 1,000,001 questions about baby things. Like you were like, "What's going on? Are you like trying?" And I was like, "No, well, yeah, Tom and I have been talking
Yeah.
about it more." That's what I said. Tom and I have
Yeah.
been talking about it more, and you know, we're considering it.
Yeah. And I was just like, okay. And I told your brother, I was like, yo, Giselle's asking me a whole bunch of questions, and I don't know where it's coming from. I was like, but I bet you she's going to tell us she's pregnant. And I was just waiting for that, because it's funny because you kept posting, like it like went on for a while, and I kept seeing postings. It was either your back, your hair,
Oh yeah.
or like the side or something. And I was like, something's fishy going on here, because it was just like, it was some posting, and I was like, okay, she never shows us the front. Or what I felt was like you were posting a lot of old stuff also. Maybe I don't know if
Yeah.
you were, but I was just like I was onto it.
Yeah. Well, you were on it. You were right. Because I didn't post anything about it till like 6 months
Yeah.
or 7 months in,
Yeah, you were
or
pretty
something
far
like that.
ahead already. Yeah, you were pretty big. Yeah, I remember. I was just like, oh yeah, I knew it.
No,
I
but
wasn't
I
even
told
shocked.
you. No, but I thought I told you. I thought I told you before.
It doesn't matter. I wasn't shocked.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, so it was one of those things that I feel like I wanted to hold to myself for as long as possible, because I think we're at an age where there's so much sharing and like there's little privacy.
Yeah.
That this one little thing that it was like a miracle to me. I just wanted to keep it to to ourselves, to like my inner circle. My inner circle knew, right?
Yeah.
But not the outside world, and that's fine. There's people that go on without even sharing anything about their lives. That's fine.
That's true.
But I wanted to hold it, because I also went through like perinatal anxiety, because I was scared of, there were scares that I had where I was bleeding like randomly. So I had to get constant checkups with the doctor. So I didn't know, like, what if I did tell everybody and then the next day or like a week later I would have a miscarriage or something. So that was always in my head, and I just didn't want to have those conversations. And obviously it's things that like we worry about but aren't reality, but it could be. And that's the thing, like it could be. And that little possibility keeps you from, I think, really enjoying the happiness in that moment that you're currently in, right? Because you're constantly scared. And that was my pregnancy, right? Like I was working every day, and I was, doing what I had to do. But in the back of my mind, I had that anxiety of what if this doesn't follow through? Like, what if I lose this baby? Like, and that just came from, one, the procedure I had the year before and like my mom's history. And then the scares of when I would wipe, I would see like blood sometimes. And things like
but
that.
I think that's normal. Everyone goes through that. I think it's always in the back of your mind. Always. Always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, we made it, obviously. And, he surprised us coming a little, like 3 days earlier than the actual due date. And he came as the best first wedding anniversary gift that Tom and I could ever ask for. And it was, I have no complaints over the hospital and like the staff there. They were super helpful. They made me feel like, even though there was no family allowed, like only one person was allowed at the time, they made me feel like they were my friends. Like they actually were super caring, super sweet. The only thing that like annoyed me a little bit, because I spent like the whole day I was in labor blow drying my hair in the house, which takes me 3 hours to straighten. The lady was putting like cold water on my forehead. So she wet my hair a little bit, and I was like, I just did it.
I don't know why. I would have been like, whatever, do you.
She was like, you're hot and you're sweating. Let me put some ice water on you. And then I was like, oh, I just did my hair. But it's those little things that I think about and I laugh about because it's so crazy. Like only my crazy ass would think about something
doing your
like
hair.
that.
No, let me tell you, my older sister, she did her hair. She took a bath, which you're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
She was ready because she was like, ain't nobody gonna see me stinky. I was like, dude, you're gonna be like naked. It doesn't matter. You're all out there.
Yeah. You have all these fluids coming out of you.
It's like, it doesn't matter. And I'm sure they've seen worse. So yeah.
They've seen it all.
What about Tom during the birth? How was he?
So because it was during COVID, Tom wasn't able to even go to the first anatomy, sonogram appointment, right? So it was all via FaceTime until I think I was 6.5 months, where we had like the detailed anatomy and, they had to do extra checks because I was high risk.
Yeah.
So that one appointment, they were like, oh no, he can't come. And I started crying, and I was like, really? I was like, the sanctions, like New York was lifting their like sanctions and all that stuff. And they were like, oh, but we're not there yet, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, but please, like, he hasn't been to any of the appointments. Like, that's my husband, like, that's the father, like, he wants to be there. And finally they were like, all right, we'll move your appointment up to when they first open the office. Come a little bit earlier and we'll let him in.
Oh,
and they
that was
let
nice.
him in Yeah, they actually let him into the detailed anatomy scan, so we got to see everything in person. And I just remember like looking at him, and I've never seen him like in just like awe.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, that's the right word.
Like he was just stuck.
Yeah.
And like he was stuck on the iPhone when I was FaceTiming him, like the first couple of times, like I could see his eyes like get like glossy. Tom's not a crier. I'm the crier. But that was one of the moments that I was just like, is he going to cry right now? But, you know, so fast forward to the actual delivery date, right? Like luckily he was able to be there. He was there every step of the way. Like he was there to hold my leg up. He was there to, even though at one point he stopped because he went to go drink water, and then I yelled at him and I was like, what are you doing? He was like, I just need to go get water. And the nurse was like, oh, poor Tom. He can't even drink water.
Give him a break.
But it was, I honestly like, okay, so the pain, you know, is unbearable.
No.
I didn't know if I was going to get epidural or not. I didn't know up until, right? And the doctor initially was like, oh, maybe you don't need it. You're already like pushing through. You're like 7-8 centimeters open. Like you're almost there. Don't worry about it. And then I was like, yeah, maybe I don't need it. Around like 4 a.m, I was like holding on to Tom the whole time. And I was like, I can't take this. I can't take this. This is unbearable. And I've never had this like feeling, but all I kept asking him was, I want my mom.
Yeah.
And I've never felt that way before, like ever. And so that's how bad it was, that I wanted my mom, and I was crying because there was nobody else allowed in.
Yeah.
And it was only him. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, there's no turning back. There's no turning back. There's no going back. And I just kept thinking like, I don't know. I think I'm going to need that epidural. Like my teeth were chattering. I don't know. Like, chattering. And I was trembling from like the pain. And then I just remember my foot doing this the whole time. That's how I was dealing with the pain.
Yes.
Like my foot just kept on this.
I would stretch out my foot a little bit too, like kind of almost like curl it in. I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah. And I was like, what the fuck was that? I've never done that.
Yeah.
Like it was just like, so did that. And then finally I asked for the epidural. Tom's like, just get the epidural. Like, just get it. Like, you don't need to prove anything to yourself, to me, to nobody here. Just get the epidural. Make it easier on you. You've gone this far. So I'm like, all right, get the epidural. The guy gets there in like 30 minutes or whatever, 40 minutes or something like that.
So chill. These anesthesiologists are so chill.
So he came and I was so nervous. They kicked Tom out of the room and they wouldn't let anybody else in there. I leaned forward, and then when he went to go do it, it was like my contractions were like 1.5 minutes apart. And he's like, make sure that you don't move. And I'm like, well, can you try to do this in between the fucking contractions? Because if you're doing it with a contraction, I'm going to fucking move.
Yeah.
So he went to do it, and then I was like, okay, go. And then a contraction came, because he took a little bit longer, and I flinched, and then I felt him like stick me a little bit with the needle, and then he ended up he got like annoyed at me. He's like, don't move, like try and stay still.
It's a big ass needle.
I didn't want to see it.
It's a big ass needle. Yeah, it's big needle, and it goes straight into your as bad as this sounds, but it's into your spine, and it's like if they miss a spot, like the right spot, they can actually damage a nerve.
Yeah. I know. So I had that in my head too, on top of the fucking contractions. So I was like, all right, I gotta stay still. So finally he got it, and then it was like really quick, and then he put in whatever, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, we need to put in a catheter, blah, blah, blah. Did all that. The pushing. So like, it's weird because my doctor wasn't there, right? And I didn't know who the next doctor would be when they switched shifts and all that stuff. But it came to like 2 hours of active pushing, and I was exhausted. And then they switched doctors in between that. And then my doctor actually came in that shift.
Oh, that's good.
And so it's like, and then Derek came. So like So once he came, he's like, oh, hey, like, blah, 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 all right, let's push, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I'm going to have to cut you. Went through the whole process. And then I was like, whatever, do whatever you got to do. That's fine. Just do whatever you got to do. He was like, all right, give me another push. Give me another push. He was like, he's getting stuck. So let me just try and help you. We're going to cut you, blah, blah, blah. Did it, cut me. And Derek came, and it was just a moment of like, time stopped.
Yeah.
When they put him on me, like, because I told him, no, don't bathe him, don't wipe him. Just, I want him directly on me. Time literally stopped. Like, it just did not feel like anything in this world, anything else matter. Nothing was about me. Nothing was about Tom. Everything was Derek in that moment. And that's it. And I've never felt that. I've never felt that type of love. And, you know, people say that, like, you don't know what love is until you have a kid. And it's so fucking true. It's just a different kind of love.
Yeah, it's just something like snaps into place for you right there and then. I think.
Purpose.
Yeah.
Like, if you ever questioned your purpose in life before, which I did several times, there was like, this is why I'm here. Like, this is why. Everything else doesn't matter. Yes, it's part of my story, whatever brought me here, but this is why. So that was my story. Oh, wait. And I forgot. I threw up like 3 times in the middle of pushing.
Oh, my God. It's common. Throw up, poop.
I didn't poop,
pee,
but I threw
whatever.
up. I threw up.
Everything comes out.
I threw up like
it's like you lose control of your body almost. It's weird. Yeah. It's a strange thing.
Well, you're going through so much adrenaline that your body is just like, they don't, like, it doesn't know how to
anything
react.
will come out.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Well, we'll see. Did you do any of that? Did you poop or throw up?
No, I didn't. And it was like, that was always in the back of my mind. I'm like, I don't like to throw up. And I was just like, I will chuck this down. I will not throw up. I will fight back. Yeah, that's me. So I don't know. Like, for us, it was, I felt like it was smooth up until the contractions got worse. So I didn't, it was, I don't remember, like the first time with Sienna, it was so much easier because I felt like it was like cramps almost.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as bad, but with Milo, it's like he wanted out. And I could see my stomach moving at some point. Like he was just like, let's go. And it's like, it happened so quickly for me. I feel like I woke Victor. Yeah, the second time. So I woke Victor up at like 1 a.m. and I was like, I think we have to go to the hospital because I couldn't, like, I kept tossing and turning, but it was just like uncomfortable. And I was like, oh my God, I think we have to go. And I was getting like shivers.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, I'm gonna go take a bath. I was like, excuse me? He's like, I need to wake up. I need to throw some water on my face. I was like, can you just throw water on your face and we can go? No, it was like a full body thing. And it was like a 20-minute thing. I was like, okay, all right. And I was just sitting there and I kept like grasping whatever I could. And I was just like, like this the whole time. I actually have the ring video from that night because I was standing outside waiting for my sister to show up to stay with Sienna. Yeah. And I was just like shaking. You could see me like standing up on my tippy toes almost because every time I got a contraction, that was the only way. Yeah, that was the only way I could control it, at least.
Yeah.
So yeah, we raced to the hospital. Thank God it's like right here, 10 minutes away. So it wasn't too bad, but I think that was the worst delivery for me because I was just shaking. It was too much. Okay. The security guard that was checking me in, because I'm like, you really have to check me in right now? Like, can we just go upstairs? Like, I gotta go. Like, it's like they have to go through all these procedures and checking me in, asking me questions. I was like, I can't talk to you right now. I'm having a contraction. And she was like, oh, you having a contraction, honey? I was like, yes, shut up, please. Because it was, I mean, the first time around, I don't remember being like that. The second time was really bad. He just wanted out.
Because it was happening so fast.
Yeah, she told me I was 6 centimeters when we arrived. So I was pretty much ahead. And then by the time the doctor showed up, because she was sleeping in the on-call room, because it was 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
She came out to check on me. She's like, I don't feel anything. I don't feel your cervix. And I'm like, what does that mean? And she's like, that means you're fully dilated. I was like, oh, that's nice. Oh, wow. Can you get out? I was like, can you get out? I have to push. I have to push. God. And he was, he came out at 5 o'clock in the morning.
That was so fast.
I had to hold on to myself because your brother was fainting in the corner. No, he didn't faint, but he was sitting on the chair that they had set up next to me. I didn't want him to see the whole thing happening in the front, and he did not want to see any of that. He said, I think he felt more of an urge to throw up this second time around than he did the first time around.
That's interesting.
First time around, he said he wanted to pass out, but the second time around, he wanted to throw up and pass out. And he was just sitting in the corner holding on, and I was like, "Are you having contractions, or am I?" And it was just like, I poke fun at him now, but I feel bad because he said the way he describes it is that he doesn't want to see me like that again because it's this pain that he said he wished he could absorb somehow.
He feels helpless.
And, yes, and
he can't take the pain from you.
And he's just like, I can't help you. There's nothing I can do to help you feel better. And that made him feel like he couldn't do anything. So he gets in this mindset, and he was just like, oh my God. The first, and then with
sweet though, like he literally felt sick.
Yeah,
because he couldn't help you.
It was like I was like waiting for the nurses to see if I kept asking her, "Is he okay?" Because I couldn't see him from where I was because he was like on the side, and I was holding on to my legs, and I was like, "Is he okay? Yeah. Is he okay?" She was like, "He's fine. Don't worry about it, honey. Just push." And I was like, okay, I'll push. So with Milo, it's just a bigger story with him and just with the contractions and the pushing and all that. I didn't take I couldn't get any more of the, epidural. I couldn't do it. Yeah. It was too late.
No.
I was too far ahead by the time the guy came around to ask me.
So you felt everything, the ring of fire and everything?
The ring of fire. I'm going to tell you, I started screaming at the poor nurse. Love her to death. She was so nice, so sweet, so calm, so collected. I screamed at her at some point, get this kid out of me. I was like, I want him out. I need to push. And she was like, oh my God, so push. Because, they tell you not to push only during contractions, to wait.
Yeah.
And my water hadn't broken yet. So it was just like, I was going to push for nothing because she had to go in and break it with the poker thing.
Yeah.
Which was the second time they did that because the first time they also had to do that to me. So that was bad. Because you feel the contraction and then they come in and they poke you. So you feel like this burning sensation, like they just went in with like a hot rod or something. Straight in.
I felt that. Yeah.
And then the water breaks. And then I felt that and all that. And then it took me like 3 pushes. I think it said it was like 9 minutes of actual active labor. And I pushed them out. Because I pushed them. Yeah. I pushed them out pretty fast. And I cut the umbilical cord.
Oh yeah! Oh my God! Super mom over here. Which was
super cool because he didn't want to.
Like,
obviously, I was like, I got it. She was like, "You okay to do that?" I was like, "Yeah, give me the scissors. Let's go." They put them on me, and then obviously I tore down there as well. So they had to sew me up, and she took her time doing that. So I didn't feel anything. I was just like, whatever. The first time,
she didn't cut you. You tore.
I tore, unfortunately. Yeah, and it was all like messed up. The first time with Sienna, I did get cut. He had to cut a little bit to let her out. But I feel like it was just an uncomfortable position for me. I wish I could have just gotten up to like push down or something because that's what I felt like I needed to do. Like, but I was in this like back position with my legs up. It's weird because they already told me that my cervix was like in a weird position to begin with. It's like tilted, so I felt like I wasn't pushing to the maximum of my body for some reason. I don't know.
Do you think that was because of the fall that you had? No, I'm serious.
The fall with my banana peel. Yes, guys, I fell with a banana. A banana peel on the ground where I worked because they sell fruit in the corner. There's a banana peel. I didn't notice. I was walking. I fell, and I fell so hard that I actually misplaced my hips for a while. It's like there's an x-ray where you could see my hip tilted to the side, and I might have done some other stuff. Yeah, it could have been. I'm not sure, but I know that was always in the back of my mind that I wasn't going to be able to get pregnant or have kids because my hip was all lopsided into almost like into my uterus almost. Like, it was weird. The way I felt, it felt so hard on the concrete and the sidewalk that, you know, I
But
thought
you didn't drop your coffee, though.
yes, the coffee was intact. Well, yeah, the coffee was intact. It was like a little cup. And I was just like this the whole time, looking around like, what the hell just happened? Yeah, I never crossed the street there after that again. I would like walk down and cross somewhere else.
Yeah. Have you? So like, I remember one time I fell going up the stairs when I was pregnant with Derek. I was like 8 months pregnant, and like I fell, but I caught myself, and I was getting out the subway because I was heading to work. I was gonna go open the store, and I remember I was like, this lady helped me up. She's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." But like I got up and I was like this because it didn't hit me until like I got up and like I went up the subway steps, and I was like, "Oh my God, I just fell." Like, did I hit my belly? Like, I didn't remember. But because I remember just my reflex, like catching myself. And then I called Tom and he's like, "Are you okay? Do you need me to come pick you up?" Or what? I was like, "No, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'll let you know." But it's like, falls are just so scary.
Yeah.
Like,
And now that you said that, like, it reminded me, my mom actually was here hanging out with us after the Christmas break. I think it might have been January or February when I was already pregnant with Milo. And I actually fell down the stairs here in the house. I lost my footing and I fell down. I didn't even think anything of it until like maybe, I don't know, a couple months back. My mom and I were talking. She was like, "You remember when you fell? You were pregnant then." I was like, "Oh, yeah, I was." I didn't even think of it. I was like, "Yeah, I was pregnant when I fell down the stairs at one time, but I was fine. Luckily, he's here."
Yeah.
He's here. But that's always like a scary thing to think of, you know, because with Sienna, initially there was like a lot of snow and ice that year, 2017, the beginning of 2017. And I have video footage. I think maybe Victor took a picture. I had to scoot down the front of my house using my welcome mat to get to my car because I was scared that I was going to fall. So I sat down and I was like, and I was like, "This is not sliding, stupid, because it's rubber. Duh, I'm not going to slide."
Yeah.
So I had to scooch all the way down. He was just, I remember him turning around and going, "What the hell are you doing?" And he was like, "I got to take a picture. I got to ask him to see if he has it somewhere. We could put it on the website or something."
That's so funny.
But for us,
you were making it work. You were doing what you thought would.
But for us, so like conceiving, we actually were 5 years into our marriage when we were like, "All right, let's try it now," because we had before we got married, we had said, "Hey, like we try to plan out as much as possible." So we were like, "Let's try to travel and do what we can beforehand for 5 years, and then we could try for kids and be like set with our jobs, get a house," because we were living in the Bronx before. So now it was like fast forward 5 years, and it was like, "All right, let's go, let's try it." And it was a trip that we were in London, and I was like, "I'm gonna stop taking my my pills," because it was like I was on the last pack or something, and I was like, "I'm not gonna ask the doctor for any more refills. Let's just try." And he was like, "Okay." Let's try it. And because I told him, I was like, "It's going to take my body a while because I've been on this pill for a while now." You know, it was since I was probably like 19, 20, and I was already almost 30. Yeah, it was like good time periods, you know, without a break. So it took December of 2016. So what was that? Like 6 months, 7 months? 7 months, right?
Yeah,
7 months, like 7 months, something like that.
You said May, right?
Yeah, it was like end of May.
So
that
like
I had that
6
trip.
months.
Yeah, like 6 months it took.
6 months.
6 months it took for it to take, and then we had Sienna.
What was that scary though when you got that positive test?
So and I just came back to me. It was December. So for me in construction, we have a lot of parties, a lot of Christmas parties to go to. So I was going to probably 2 parties a week, and that requires a lot of alcohol drinking.
Yeah.
So I was just like, having fun with all my coworkers, you know, shooting the shit. We were just whatever. And I found out I was pregnant maybe December. It was like before Christmas. And I was like, oh my God. I went to all these parties and I was drinking a whole bunch of alcohol. Like, my kid's going to come out. Like, there's something going to be wrong with her, because I was just like, it was funny, but I don't even know how I even knew. It was just like, I felt weird because I was losing my temper with everyone. Everything would set me off, and I was like, there's something wrong with me. So I made your brother get me the test, and he was so sweet. He bought me my Snicker bar ice cream, because he's like, I figured if this was positive, you were going to want to eat something right away. And so he was like, since you can't drink. And I remember coming down the stairs, and he was like doing housework while watching a Giants game on the TV, and I was like, babe, I'm pregnant. And I started crying, because that's when I finally told him, it was like, oh, it was like real shit, here we go, this is like, this is for real, this is happening. And I was like, I don't even know if he started. No, he doesn't. No, I don't think he started crying. He was just like, why are you crying? Relax. You know exactly why are you crying?
That's like Tom. It's like, why are you crying? And then he stops himself. He's like, oh, I know why you're crying.
He knows. So that was it with him. And then with Milo, it was a play date we were at, and I was just talking to my friend, and it was just like, are you trying for another one? I was like, yeah, we've been trying, but it's been a while, so it's like, it's probably not going to happen. And she was just like, but you've been keeping track. And I was like, yeah, kind of keeping track. And then I was like, let me look at this thing. When I pulled it out, and I was like, yeah, I haven't like looked to see. And I had missed a period already. It had happened like the week before. I was having this conversation, and I was like, wait, what? And she's looking at me, and my friend was like, yeah, you need to get a pregnancy test. Moment like, go. Yeah. She was like, hey, you call me right away and let me know. And she was actually the first person to find out. It was her. It was her. Yeah. She found out first, and then I told my...
before you.
I think her radar was up. I must have said something that
it was
she
like
was
how
like...
you knew about me without me saying it.
Yeah. So, shout out to Marina, who found out I was pregnant first. But that one crazy. we weren't really prepared for, because we were trying, but it wasn't like, whatever. We thought it'll happen. It'll happen if it was meant to be, and it did. So luckily we didn't have any issues with that. So, and I thank God for that every day.
Yeah, because it's like once you're in it, every horrible thought comes to mind of what could possibly go wrong. So, and like I know of other stories that it didn't go as smoothly. And it's
and that's unfortunate.
It's rough.
Yeah, it is.
Rough,
it is.
Like I think of, like, I remember crying and like being pregnant and thinking, my mom went through so much, like with her pregnancies, that I was like, what if I go through the same thing? And then I kept thinking, oh my God, she had to go through all these horrible things. So then I felt guilty that she went through that, and that she felt those things.
But like, you didn't.
Miscarriage and stillborn and all that stuff. Yeah. And I was like, I didn't go through it, and I almost felt like guilt because of it. It's just very weird, but I don't know. Anyway, it's a journey, and everybody has a different story, obviously. Yeah. And we learn as we go, but I think it's always important after hearing other people's stories, to advocate for yourself, right? Like, if you feel that your doctor isn't paying attention to you or listening to you about like let's say your doctor, like, you wanted the epidural or something like that, and like they just weren't like, oh no, you could do it without it, or they weren't taking you seriously or whatever. Whatever, I don't know. If you wanted to give birth standing up instead of laying back,
I think
you have every right to do that.
I probably should have spoken up more about that, because they do have the tools for you to do that.
Yeah.
Like, you can, you could, even if you wanted to do it, like even underwater, like sitting in the tub, they would allow that. Yeah. It was my first time, and I probably should have said something, because that's how I felt I needed to push. Ask. But then the second time around, I was more comfortable, and I I pushed the same way I did the second time, but
Yeah.
it didn't bother me to be in that position. I don't know. I just wanted him out.
Yeah. But I think it's important to know, like, you can advocate for yourself. Like, I remember my hospital asked me, do you want the lights off? Like, what's your birth plan? Do you want to wait for the cord clamping and like the cutting and all that stuff? And
Yeah.
they listened to everything that I wanted. They're like, do you need a little pool? Like, do you want a pool? And I was like, oh, no, I don't want that. But they gave me like a peanut that I can get sideways and like use between my legs to like help with just like the process of it all. And like, I know people that their doctors completely dismissed their diagnosis. Like, they were throwing up and like, oh my God, I forget what it's called when you get through like, extreme dehydration from like throwing up and not holding in food. But like my friend, like her doctor completely was like, oh no, that's fine. Like, just take Tums or like whatever and you'll be all right, and wasn't listening to her at all. And she was like, I don't know if I can switch doctors. Like, I don't even know if I can do that. I'm like, yeah, you can.
You can,
if your doctor isn't listening to you.
Insurance wise, sometimes they don't let you after 24 weeks. They won't let you switch a doctor, or like if you want to switch to a different practice, it's like you have to make sure you're at the right place before then. That was that was my issue. Like, I couldn't, if I didn't like my doctor, I couldn't switch.
It had to be before the 24
It had to be the 24 weeks. Yes. And I'm not sure why that rule is in place, but I'm sure if you called your insurance and spoke up or whatever the case is, they might do it for you, but I'm not sure. So you also got to have that in mind too.
Well, she was able, luckily, to switch.
Oh, good.
She went to my doctor. And she was like, thank God that I went to your doctor. He actually diagnosed her correctly.
Oh,
I
that's
was like,
good.
you were right. You were right. Exactly what you were telling your other doctor is exactly what you have. And a good thing that, you know, you spoke up and you switched doctors, because we can treat you, you know, and shit is crazy. And like, at the end of the day, they're not doing you any favors. You're paying them. You're paying your insurance. You're paying the doctor to treat you. So they should listen for you. They should listen to whatever it is that you want or whatever your concern is, right? And I think us as women, like, we're just so used to, I guess, like, we don't want to rattle. Like, we don't want to, like...
You get dismissed so quickly, and it's like, maybe I am wrong.
Yeah, like, you question yourself.
Yeah.
And they gaslight you. I feel like they gaslight you.
Yeah.
Like, I had a nurse gaslight me when Derek had RSV. And she was like, oh no, like, they were all like, oh no, he's fine, whatever. But long story short, once he was diagnosed with the RSV, she was like, oh, don't you wish that there would be a vaccine for it now? Because, and she said that comment because I was like, oh, I had questions about the vaccines, and I was like questioning the whole thing and like the schedule itself. And she was like, well, aren't you glad now that, you know, or wouldn't you be happy if there was an actual vaccine for this? And I was like, is that really what you want to tell a mom that has her 2-month-old that's like, going through RSV right now? Yeah, exactly. So, but anyway, I think aside from just like the whole experience of motherhood and all that, we should be able to speak up and advocate for ourselves, or have somebody with us that can do that and that can help us, because otherwise it's just, they're going to do whatever they want. Yeah. You know, like, the doctors are going to do whatever they think is best.
Yeah. And if you don't talk and speak up for yourself, they will never know if they're doing the right thing. They're just going to do. For you. It's like, I feel like they try to treat us like we're just generic women. Everyone's the same. And it's not. Yeah. It's not the case. That's not the case.
Yeah.
So.
Or they hit you with the, oh, did you look that up in Google? Or did you look that up on the internet? And it's like, yeah, but it also matches with how I feel. So how about you take me seriously? But anyway. And I also didn't want to be known as like the crazy new mom, the first time mom that was like just super worried after reading about something in the What to Expect book or app or whatever. But yeah, anyway. Okay, so, we're almost out of time. There we go. I didn't even realize that.
I think we did good today.
Yeah. Okay, so that was our birth stories from what we remember.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Mine was all choppy, but, 6 years now.
But I think our bodies just naturally block it out because it's so traumatic. Our minds block it out.
Yeah.
But here we are. And probably as we go on with the podcast, we'll remember little things like, oh my God, yeah, this happened.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely jogging my memory with a lot of stuff. Like, oh, wait, yeah, I remember.
But everybody has a different story, and we want to hear it. We want to get the feedback. We want to go ahead and also hear about what you guys want us to talk about, because we have obviously topics that we have in mind, but we want to hear like what do you guys want to hear about next, and just overall, like, and maybe talk about our week and how crazy it's been with just work and life and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. What do you have anything that you want to say?
Just thank you for listening once again. And I think our next episode is going to be about just bringing baby home, right? We're going to just talk about, bringing baby home and talking about those first couple weeks with the baby. Whatever we can remember. I laugh because
Especially
I feel like such an old woman.
No, it's just, I mean, we didn't sleep. There's the limited
no sleep team.
Crying baby. Yeah. So it's hard. It's hard. Like I think I told you before, I was like, I asked the hospital, can I stay another day after I gave birth? Because I was so scared to go home, like with just Tom and I, like, what do we do now? But we'll talk about that in the next episode and catch up on that. Thank you everyone for listening and just supporting us. And again, please share, feedback, comments, keep it coming, and let us know what you guys want to know next. And, you know, if you really want to support us, like, share, subscribe, all the above.
All the good stuff.
Whatever the influencers say nowadays, I don't know. But and then we're looking forward to, again, we're going to have some special guests to talk about their stories as well. But thank you.
Thank you
for
so
joining
much.
us in What's New Mama podcast. Bye.
Bye.